Welcome to Speed Round Sunday on the Parenting Roundabout podcast, where we share a mini episode from our past for your weekend listening pleasure. We'll be back tomorrow with a brand new episode. We're going to talk about homework help, and maybe your kids get jealous if you're helping the other one with homework or something. I don't know. Mine would be happy to be left alone, but
that's what I'm thinking too.
So school is starting now. We don't have too much homework yet, but for our speed round, I wanted to talk about how much do you or did you help with your kids' homework, and ask if you have some advice for me on making things easier this school year. It's my high schooler pretty much takes care of herself, but my younger one, I sometimes do have to step in. So. But it's really tough, drawing the line. Like sometimes with him, maybe he knows things, but he struggles to actually write them down.
Oh yeah.
So, is it appropriate to write things for him, even if he's dictating? Things like that. Like I've written a note to a teacher before and said, like, I swear he did these math problems, but I just wrote them down.
Yeah.
I think that's legitimate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think does he type?
Yeah, he can. Mm-hmm. And he'll be doing, I'm sure, more and more they have school issued Chromebooks. So he will, I'm sure, be doing more and more with that this year. So that helps.
Yeah, I remember at one point my son was, I may have talked about this before, he was having to write like his spelling words. He was supposed to write his spelling words 10 times. And he knew the spelling just fine. But writing something 10 words 10 times each was just excruciating because his fine motor was so delayed. So I said to the teacher, look, he knows the spelling. Does he really have to write it 10 times? And so we wound up with like 1 time or 3 times or something like that. And she was happy to adjust it. Good. And then he could do his homework. Without me having to do it for him. So sometimes it's, especially if the thing that's being done is not really the lesson. Yeah. Writing numbers is not really what math is about. It's understanding the concepts. And being able to spell the word is what spelling is about. It's not being able to write it. That's a different subject. And if they're combining them, then yes, that's a problem.
Right.
But if not, then see if you can focus in on the thing that's really the issue and not the most convenient way that they've packaged it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Math is hard in terms of writing. I know we used to have to use graph paper. We would have to set up the math problems on graph paper so that he could write into the boxes instead of just loose on a piece of paper. It would just go all over the place.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought it was great. The last time we talked to Megan, she pointed out, Megan Corridon, our occupational therapist, she pointed out there's a website where you can print graph paper in all different size of graphs.
That is very nice.
Not of graphs, of boxes, which I thought was a really cool
You can also make your own in Microsoft Word, I think is what I did.
Yeah.
But that website is easier. But yeah, that's good. The different size boxes is good. So depending on how exact your child writes, you can make it big enough or small enough. And then you just write the problems on there and then they can do the math.
Right.
But I always helped way too much with homework. I was one of those parents. But, when it's legitimately hard for your kid. I mean, I feel like if your kid is able, let them do their homework. If they do it right, if they do it wrong, let them do it. The teacher needs to know if they can understand it or not. But if they just completely can't do it, and certainly in bad inclusion classrooms, this happens a lot, where, the lesson has not been adapted, and you get this thing, and your kid can't do it. So you have to help to some degree, and do it to some degree. Just say, here, write. So I do the opposite of you, Catherine. I dictate to them. Write this down in your handwriting. And that's bad, but sometimes that's all there is, you just...
Well, I feel like this is particularly relevant to us again right now because my daughter is going through a huge change in her workload at school.
Oh.
She's got a really heavy course load this year, and she's just struggling to keep her head above water, basically, because apparently some teachers think that the more homework, the better. And which isn't necessarily the case. So I actually went in for a meeting this morning with her teachers at 7 a.m. So I'm dragging a bit, and we talked about ways to support her with her homework, because I'm literally having to sit down at the table with her again, and I haven't done that since elementary school. But I'm literally having to sit there and help her get through the piles of homework that she has. And so we were kind of coming up with different ways of getting it done, and some are more formal than others, but asking for the reduction in the amount of homework, or asking for an extension sometimes helps. Showing it in a different way, like so for example, in Kristen's English class, I remember way back when she'd have to read a chapter a night or something, right? Well, she's not a reader. I mean, she can read, but she just hates reading, and it's painful. I mean, she's the kind of kid that will finish a chapter in a year. Not in a night. So we just got audiobooks for her.
Yes.
And it was much better, and we told the teacher about it, and so it's just kind of finding ways to facilitate them getting it done.
It's really nice that we live in an age of audiobooks now, because I remember when my daughter was little, I had to just read her assignments into a tape recorder so that then she could listen to them, and that was difficult if I had anything else to do. Or once she got older and the passages got longer.
Yeah.
But the listening was definitely the way to go with her too. But we didn't have something pre-recorded to use. That's very nice.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought those days were done for us, but obviously not.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's not an indicator of what's coming for me with my high schooler, but it could happen. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the time, if you do like what you did, Nicole, and go in and let the teacher know that it's not that you don't want them to have homework, it's not that you don't respect the homework, just that you want to find a way to make the homework work for your kid. Sometimes that works. It depends on the teacher, of course. And I mean, you're a teacher, so I know you know how to put it and what to say. But I think a lot of parents just come in and say, my kid doesn't do homework, or she's not going to do this homework, or whatever. And, I think homework has value. I like seeing what they're doing in the classroom. But sometimes you just have to say, well, now this is not going to be anything other than just a misery. Can we?
Yeah. You can negotiate.
Yeah. Can we make this a positive learning experience in some way?
Yeah. And just, you're not asking for them to not do it, but as long as the child is meeting the standards and learning the standards, then there shouldn't be an issue in terms of negotiating what works for your child. Because, let's face it, in all honesty, how often do we get a project land on our desk at 3:30 in the afternoon and it's due the next day, right?
I don't know.
Yes, that happens. But
how quick did you want that title for your book, Nicole?
Yeah, that's right. As soon as possible, Terry. Before the end of business day.
Okay. Am I going to get an F if I'm late?
Yeah. I don't know. It just, I think the takeaway is communicating with your child's teacher is huge.
Yeah.
It goes a long way to.
Well, I'm hopeful because I feel like with my son, each year has gotten a little easier just as he matures. It's helping a lot. So